Hello and welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. Today I'm going to be talking to you about 3 ways to stretch your quads. So that's these big muscles at the front of your thigh. I'm sure most of you are very familiar with stretching them, but I'm going to talk to you about some of the detail that you need to be aware of. Obviously these stretches are great for runners and cyclists and anyone who's active, but to be honest, most of us get tight in the front of the thigh, so it's a good thing for us to be stretching. So I'm going to turn sideways on. What happens when these muscles get very tight is not only will they create a big contour, but they'll also pull the pelvis forwards like this. So if the hip flexors and the quads, the muscles at the front of the thigh and the front of the hip are too tight, you end up usually with this happening, with your spine overarching. And that becomes a problem even when we're trying to stretch these muscles. So we want to open the angle at the front of the hip. We want a nice vertical straight line there when we're stretching in order to get the very top bit of the quads. That's often the bit that's naughty and tight. So when we're stretching, we'll start with a standing one. You can hold onto a wall or a chair if you need to for balance. You're going to kick one foot up to hold onto it. And then the important thing is that you're not here, that you're not allowing your back to arch. Most people stretch their quads with a straight standing leg and the back is arched and there's basically nothing going on at all in the thigh. So the first thing is to bend your supporting leg. You're in a bent standing leg, and then to tilt the pelvis. So you want to really suck the belly back, tuck that tail under and keep the tail tucked under. That might bring your leg forwards to start with, but then gradually over time you're going to allow that thigh to become a little bit more vertical, drawing the knee towards the floor. And if you can maintain the pelvic tilt, then you can take it further back. So you need to be quite flexible to get the thigh behind you. But if your pelvis remains in a tilt, that's the important thing. Then you're going to the point of stretch, which is where you feel about a 7 out of 10 on the stretch scale. So 0 meaning I can't feel a thing, 10 meaning it's a complete emergency, it's the worst pain you've ever felt in your life, 7 is not comfortable. So you want to find that not very comfortable stretch, and yet it's a manageable stretch. You feel safe. Hold it for at least 30 seconds, breathing, trying to relax into it. Whatever you do, don't lose your pelvic tilt. And then release the leg and give it a good stretch, and obviously do that on both sides. You can also do that same stretch lying on your front or lying on one side. I won't show you those today, but essentially just play around with it. It's the same thing. You want to keep that feeling of drawing the abdomen up to maintain the pelvic tilt. Other than that, very, very similar. So the next one I'm going to show you is against the walls. It's a little bit harder now. So you need a cushion, something that you can support your knee with. Bring that cushion into position next to the wall, and then you're going to put one knee on the cushion with the shin up the wall. So that kind of position. Stride forwards with the other leg. Get that comfortable with a vertical shin on your front leg, and then supporting yourself with your hands, allow the pelvis to relax downwards. So clearly this won't be accessible for anyone with knee issues. If it's painful, don't do it. It's a much stronger stretch though, so you'll feel it much more. You want to make sure that your bum's not in the air here, but that you drop it downwards. So you're again really trying to open the front of the hip. There's no need to take the hands off the floor. If you can reach your 7 out of 10 on the stretch scale by just sinking the pelvis as low to the mat as it will go, then great. But if you aren't quite getting 7 out of 10, then you can progress that to bringing the hands onto the front knee. Never at the expense of this though, so you don't want to be up here. You want your pelvis tilted and dropped right down to the floor. Again, 30 to 45 seconds, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the face, trying to breathe into the stretch and give into it gently, and then come out of it carefully and change sides. And then I've got one more to show you, and this is the hardest one of all. So no wall this time, but you can, if you want to, still use a cushion underneath the back knee. So we're in a lunge position as before, vertical front shin, your pelvis dropping as low to the ground as you can, and then you're reaching back for the foot behind you. You want a quick kick to hold on to it, and then settle the pelvis down again. So you can, if you're quite flexible, continue to bend your back arm and pull that foot right the way in towards your bottom. Or you can, if you're struggling with it a little bit, tie something around the foot, like a TheraBand or a belt. So I'm just putting that onto my shin wrapping it around and then pulling myself into the stretch there so that I don't have to worry about not being able to reach the foot. Once again, once we've found 7 out of 10 on our stretch scale, so quite uncomfortable but manageable kind of pain, we're going to breathe into it and see how much we can relax the body. Pelvis drops, so you don't want to be up here. Open the front of the hip. Remember that nice long straight line that we talked about earlier. And let everything relax as you sustain that again for 30 to 45 seconds on each leg. So I've sort of graded them upwards there, starting with the nice easy standing one, which I'm sure all of you will be able to manage, and then progressing it to a kneeling stretch and even pulling the foot in for your strongest possible quad stretch. I hope that's a useful reminder to all you runners and cyclists and people that do lots of exercise but perhaps not enough stretching. Get the front of the thighs a little bit looser and longer. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday.